Hello and welcome once again. My name is Natty Cash and we are back. I know it's been a while if you're watching this in real time, but work has been very busy, but now I have a few weeks that I can kind of crush this rest of the series out. But we are back with episode 9 of this series doing the Ultimate March Madness Tournament. Give us a moment and I'm going to recap where we have gotten to at this point in time. As you can see, we are closing in about the halfway point. We have had 7 different brackets completed. We have a few upsets, a few number 1 seeds that have made it this far. We are then going to, over the next few weeks, complete the rest of this series and then make sure that we figure out who is the ultimate March Madness Tournament champion. Today, we are going to jump into the Southwest region out of Las Vegas, and we're going to see which teams are in that bracket and see who is going to represent that Southwest region in this series. So as we take a look at the Southwest region, our number 1 seed in the Southwest region is the Arizona Wildcats, coming out of the Pac-12. They were first in that league over the season, had unfortunately lost to Oregon in the conference tournament. Let's see what they can do to make themselves a competitive statement here at the moment. They have to wait for the 16th seed, which will be between the Leathernecks out of Western Illinois, coming out of the Ohio Valley Conference, and the Lions of North Alabama from the Atlantic Sun region. Each of them kind of middling in their own conferences, 4th in their league for Western Illinois and 6th in their league for Northern Alabama. Let's see what they can do. As we continue down, the number 9 seed is going to be the Penguins out of Youngstown State. Out of the Horizon League, 2nd in that league, getting 22-10 record overall, but unfortunately lost early in their conference tournament. Let's see what they can do now in a redemption. They have to then go against the number 8 seed, which is the Raiders from Colgate. League champions out of the Patriot League, 1st in their league, and having a 25-10 overall record. They are going to be strong opponents in this side of the bracket. Then we look further down, and number 5 is the Pirates of Seton Hall, 25-12 record coming out of the Big East. We'll see them face off against one of 2 opponents, which will either be Fairleigh Dickinson or East Carolina. You see the Knights of Fairleigh Dickinson coming out of the Northeast Conference with a 15-17 record, and the East Carolina Pirates out of the American Conference, 15-18 record. Very similar records. Let's see who can come out of that matchup. As we go towards the bottom of this half, we're going to see the 13th seed determined between Sacramento State and St. Louis. The Hornets of Sacramento State coming out of the Big Sky region, not doing too well in that region, 10-24, but let's see if they can change that in this type of setting. And we have the Billikens of St. Louis that didn't do well in the Atlantic 10 region, also looking for redemption here. They are then going to play the number 4 seed, which are the Knights of UCF, a 17-16 record out of the Big 12, newly kind of put into the Big 12 recently, and let's see what they can do sitting in a number 4 seed position. Then as we take a look at the bottom half of the region, our number 3 seed is the Clemson Tigers, coming out of the ACC, a 24-12 record, only 6th in the ACC and lost out early in the ACC tournament. Let's see what they can do in this tournament. They're going to have to wait for their opponent, which is going to be between Boston University and Austin Peay. The Governors of Austin Peay have a 19-16 record, which is good enough for 4th in the Atlantic Sun region, whereas the Terriers of Boston University were 2nd in the Patriot League. Each of them got a win in their conference tournament. Let's see if they can continue that and get some wins in this tournament setting. Then you have the 11th seed, which is going to be a battle between the Maryland Eastern Shore Hawks and the Bryant Bulldogs. The Hawks from Maryland a 9-20 record, struggled this year in the MEAC conference. Let's see if they can find their footing in this tournament up against the Bryant Bulldogs, who are out of the American East Conference, third with a 20-13 overall record. Whoever wins from that game will then have to play the Patriots of George Mason. They are out of the Atlantic 10 with a 20-12 record. We'll see what they can do sitting in that 6th seed position. As we get to the very bottom of the bracket, we're seeing number 7 seed is going to be the Bulldogs of Louisiana Tech with a 22-10 record, good enough for second in the Conference USA. Unfortunately, lost out early to Middle Tennessee in their conference tournament. Let's see if they can redeem themselves in this number 7 seed. They have to wait for their opponent, which will be between the Lindenwood Lions out of the Ohio Valley Conference and Purdue Fort Wayne. The Mastodons from Purdue Fort Wayne are in the Horizon League with a 23-13 record, good enough for 8th, where then the Lions of Lindenwood struggled, getting only a 9-22 record this year. Let's see who can come out and get a first win in this tournament. The 15 seed is going to be played between the Sacred Heart Pioneers, 16-16 record from the Northeast Conference, third in that league, and they have to face the Falcons of Bowling Green from the MAC Conference, 20-14 record, 5th, good enough for 5th in the MAC Conference. Whoever wins out of that matchup will then play our number 2 seed, which will be the Florida Gators, 24-12 record, coming out of the SEC, good enough for 6th in their league. They went on a pretty darn good run, winning 3 games on their way to eventually losing to Auburn in the conference tournament. So this is a look of the entire bracket. We will go through one game at a time. If you would like, put your predictions down in the comments below, and we will see who comes out of this region victorious. Our starting matchup was going to be between the Leathernecks of Western Illinois and the Lions of North Alabama. And in our first match, it is the Lions of North Alabama that get the victory here. You see that there is a back and forth game where then Western Illinois was leading after the half, but it was North Alabama that pushed forward to get the win in the end. And here we see North Alabama moving forward, and they will have to play the Wildcats of Arizona. Our next matchup is going to be the Knights of Fairleigh Dickinson up against the East Carolina Pirates. And this one was a close one up until the very end, but East Carolina are able to get the win here. You see it going back and forth between them, back and forth, and Fairleigh Dickinson taking a lead early in the second half, but a strong push at the very end for East Carolina allows them to get the 10-point victory. And we see that East Carolina will then move on to face Seton Hall in the next round. We have the next matchup, which is the Sacramento State Hornets versus the Billikens from St. Louis. And in nail-biting fashion, we see the Hornets of Sacramento State moving forward to get the win here. St. Louis had a good lead and kind of kept that lead all the way to the first half, but Sacramento State made a good push and then got the lead, and through some back and forth possessions, Sacramento State get the victory in the end. And as you can see, the Hornets of Sacramento State are now moving on to play the number 4 seed UCF in the next round. Next, as we move to the bottom half of our bracket, we see the Terriers of Boston University going up against the Austin Peay Governors. And we see the Governors win in a close one. They were leading basically the entire time, but as they got towards the end, Boston University did get a lead towards the end, but the Governors had just enough to get the 3-point victory in the end. So we see Austin Peay moving forward, and they will play the Clemson Tigers in the next round. Next up, we have Maryland Eastern Shore up against the Bryant Bulldogs. And it is the Bulldogs that run away with the victory. Although it was pretty close throughout most of it, it wasn't until the very end that Bryant pushed forward and got a 15-point victory out of it in the end. And as you can see, Bryant is now moving forward, and they will play the Patriots of George Mason in the next round. Moving further down, we have the Lions of Lindenwood up against the Mastodons of Purdue Fort Wayne. And I know it's hard to tell because both of the symbols are missing here, but it is Lindenwood with the 5-point victory here. Purdue Fort Wayne were leading early, but Lindenwood took a lead in the first half and never looked back, moving forward and winning by 5 to move on to the next round. And we see that Lindenwood will then move forward to play the Bulldogs out of Louisiana Tech. Our last game of the first round is going to be up against the Pioneers of Sacred Heart against the Bowling Green Falcons for that 15 seed. And we do see the Falcons from Bowling Green getting the victory. They were close early on, but about after the first half, Bowling Green were able to push themselves forward and get a comfortable 10-point victory in the end. And so here is our look at the entire bracket after the first round games. We are now going to then move through into each individual round, narrowing it down till we get the final winner out of the Southwest region, starting with seeing the Arizona Wildcats up against the Lions of North Alabama. And as expected, the Wildcats took care of business handily against North Alabama, even though it was relatively close, within 6 points at halftime. Arizona then took off in the second half, making it a rout of a victory in their first game of the tournament. And with Arizona moving forward, they will await their opponent, which will be the winner between the Penguins of Youngstown State or the Colgate Raiders. And in a back-and-forth game, it is Youngstown State that get the victory here. You see that they had a lead throughout most of the first half, up by about, looks like 9 at the first half. But Colgate pushed forward and pushed back, and there was a few lead changes, but it was Youngstown in the end that held them off for a 1-point victory. What a game. And so you see Youngstown State moving on to the next round. Further down, we're going to have the East Carolina Pirates up against the Seton Hall Pirates as well. So the battle of the Pirates in this next matchup. And it is the 5th seed Seton Hall that get the victory here. Around halftime, it looked pretty close, with Seton Hall only having maybe a 2-point lead. But as it got into the second half, Seton Hall were able to wear them down and push forward for a comfortable victory. So with Seton Hall moving forward, they will await their opponent, which will be between the Hornets of Sacramento State and the UCF Knights. And in a big upset, it is Sacramento State that go on to win this game. A very close back-and-forth game throughout, many lead changes, but it is the Hornets of Sacramento State that move on to the next round. And as we take a look at the bracket, we'll move down to the bottom half of the bracket, where we are going to see the Clemson Tigers go up against the Governors of Austin Peay. And it is the Tigers of Clemson that move forward. Although as you take a look at about halftime, Austin Peay was actually winning by a few points, but Clemson really turned it on in the second half, pushing forward for the comfortable victory in the end. And with Clemson moving forward, they are awaiting their opponent, which will be either the Bryant Bulldogs or the George Mason Patriots. And we do see the Patriots moving on. We note that it was about a 7-point lead, and there was a point here where Bryant really closed it in, but George Mason were able to push and maintain a healthy lead and winning by 12 points. As we continue further down, we are going to see the Bulldogs of Louisiana Tech see if they can take out the Lions of Lindenwood. And we do see the Bulldogs of Louisiana Tech making it a comfortable win. They were leading the entire time. I guess not by too much, by maybe 10, 12 points as they went through, eventually getting the 9-point victory in the end. And awaiting the Bulldogs is going to be either the Falcons of Bowling Green or the Florida Gators to wrap up this round of games. And it was a close game, but it is the Gators that pull out the victory in the end. As you look at around halftime, there's only about a 1 or 2 point separation between them, and there are even times where Bowling Green had the lead early on in the game, a little bit in the second half, but Florida were able to have a lead in the second half and be able to then push and get a 6-point victory in the end. And there we have it. We have the last 8 teams in this region stated here in front of us. Really, the only upset that we saw was the Sacramento State. Let's see if there are any other upsets that come up. We are starting again at the top with Arizona and Youngstown State. And it is Arizona and the Wildcats doing well to get the victory here. We see them taking the lead early on, a significant lead of 17 points, and continuing on to make a comfortable next round victory here. So Arizona is one of our quarterfinalists in this region. They are awaiting their next opponent, which will be either the Seton Hall Pirates or the Hornets out of Sacramento State. And it is Seton Hall that ends Sacramento State's run. You see a kind of 5-point lead here early on, but Seton Hall really pushes hard in the second half and gets a comfortable victory in the end to move on to the quarterfinals of this region. I do apologize. These are actually winners now moving into the semifinals of this region. So Seton Hall and Arizona are making the first game of our regional semifinals. 2 more quarterfinal games left to go, starting off with the Clemson Tigers up against the Patriots of George Mason. And we do see the Clemson Tigers going forward and getting the victory here. A pretty comfortable victory in the end, leading significantly by 15 at half and continuing forward for a comfortable victory. With Clemson moving forward, we have just 1 quarterfinal game left to resolve, which will be the Louisiana State Bulldogs up against the Florida Gators. And we do see the Gators moving on to the next round. They were winning by a reasonably 12-point margin, but they continued pushing forward steadily and getting a comfortable victory against the Bulldogs to move forward. We are now left to these regional semifinals. Top-ranked teams in this bracket. We will see who can move on, because any one of these teams could get a couple more wins and move forward out of this region. The first game we will look at is the Arizona Wildcats versus the Seton Hall Pirates. And we've got another upset as the Pirates are going on to the regional finals. I didn't think that they would, if they won, it would be by this much, a 13-point victory. You see, they led most of the entire game. Maybe at halftime they are only up by maybe 1 or 2 points, but Seton Hall pushed again in the second half and took out the number 1 seed in this region, Arizona, to move on to the regional finals. Great job by Seton Hall. Miraculous things that we're seeing here as Arizona are now out of the tournament. Seton Hall is moved into the regional finals, awaiting their opponent, which will be either between Clemson or the Florida Gators. And it was close, but the Florida Gators are the other team moving into the finals here. Sorry about that, everyone. It's Florida Gators that are moving into the finals here. We see a reasonable lead here, created about 11 points at halftime, and they never really relinquished that as they move forward into the regional finals. And here we are at the end of this region, where we are either going to see the Seton Hall Pirates representing this region, which would be only the second, fifth seed to come out of a region after SMU, or we will see the Florida Gators come out of this region, which would be the third consecutive number 2 seed that we see coming out of a region. Well, let's get to it and see who is our region champions. And it is the Florida Gators that come away with the victory. Although, as you can see here, there are many lead changes throughout, right? Back and forth stuff all through the first half, and probably just neck and neck right at the halftime. But then Florida started pushing, gaining a lead. Seton Hall worked hard to get back into it. But one last surge by the Florida Gators was just enough for them to get the victory and be this region's champion. And there you have it. The Florida Gators represent themselves in the Sweet 16 of teams remaining, a region champion coming out of the Southwest. And as you can see, they are now the third number 2 seed to come out of their region. Again, thank you so much for watching. We are going to continue this. And next time you're going to see the New England region being represented coming out of Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.